So, what the heck is value in watercolor painting, and is it really important? It is. Let me show you why. All right, so this is a painting I did not too awful long ago. Let me explain first that value is either how dark or how light a color is. So, with that being said, you automatically go, okay, I get it. Dark value, the white stripes are very light value, but there's a lot of values in between. Let's take a look at those. All right, so we see right in this area of this black and white striped fabric, there is a shadow there, right? Well, this is a darker value than the surrounding area. What that's going to do is it's going to make that lemon just pop right off the page. And it's going to help show the little legs that this silver creamer has on it. And there's also even value down in those to show the little carvings and the shape and form of all that little filigree down there. Then if you look at the creamer, the solid part itself, you see this light spot right here, and then you see this dark area right here. Okay, so the light area is my ceiling in this room. And if you look around my room, my house was built in 1931. It was built for an attorney. This was his home office. So of course it's very masculine. It's wood from floor to ceiling with cabinets and shelves, and all of it is stained a dark color. So that helped create this dark in this little shoot that I did. Then amongst all of this darkness, we see some lighter value from the reflection of this tablecloth into that dish and the reflection of the lemon. So we have even another value, which is darker. It's not as dark as this, not as dark as this, but all the same, it's still darker than some of the surrounding objects. So are you kind of getting the grasp of the idea that value is the workhorse? Color gets all the credit. Now, when your eye is drawn to a painting, sometimes it could be the color because maybe there's a lot of red or purple, two of my favorite colors, that makes me automatically take notice of that painting because those are my favorite colors. But when you really take notice of that painting, you're going to be drawn to it because of the values. Now, looking at this cloth, do you see how it looks like it's kind of sitting on the tabletop and there's curves and bends and clumps of fabric bunched up together and that kind of thing? All created with value. Let me show you what we're going to do today. This little thing. This is a value chart that I created. Now you can buy these at the store, like Blick Art Materials, Cheap Joe's, Jerry's Artorama, and I would even venture to say other places like Michael's and people who carry paint and brushes and that kind of thing. You can get them there, but you can also make your own and make it as big or as little as you want. Now I put 8 on mine. You could make one with 12 squares, 6 squares, whatever you want to do. But this is the purpose of using it. When I hold it up here, you see this really dark? That is the darkest value, which is the value of my background. Let's slide it on down here where this shadow is. It's not as dark as the darkest dark, but if I start going this way, it falls kind of in the mid-tone range there. And then remember, we discussed this shadow right here. It's a little bit lighter. It's not quite in the mid-tone. It's to the lighter side, but there's still value there. And that is what is going to give your painting 3-dimension, more realism, more texture, depth, and make certain things that you want to have pop off the page. So let me set this down and show you this again. So we have 8 on here. It's going from the darkest all the way to the lightest, and it's really simple to do. So let's go on over to my desk, sit down, and make one of these. All right, so very limited supplies is all we need today. I just have a scrap piece of some watercolor paper that I started a painting on and decided I didn't like it. So what do I do with it? I cut it up into little pieces and use it for other projects like this. So got my little piece of paper, and you know, it doesn't really matter what size you have, whatever works for you. Mine just happens to be 9 inches, and then it's about 2 3/8 inches wide, but that doesn't really matter. I would say that if you have one that's 8 to 9 inches long and at least 1.5 inches to 2 inches wide, that is all you need. And then I've got a ruler. This is a quilting ruler. I like it because it's clear, but you can use whatever ruler you might have. And I've just got a lead pencil here, and I'm going to use Payne's Gray to do this today. Typically, I don't use a pre-mixed black. I mix my own, but for something like this, a pre-mixed black is fine. And then I just have this little dish that I'm going to use to make that in. And I'm going to readjust my lights a little bit in hopes that you can see better. Maybe this will work. Okay, so let's get started by putting a little bit of black paint down in here. And I'm just going to grab my little pipette and put some water in there. Then I'm just going to use an old brush that I don't use for my regular painting because I bought this one and I made the mistake of getting the really long handle, and I don't like to use those. So I use it for other things like this. Just because I like the 7-inch handles, I don't like this, which is probably about 11 inches long. It would kind of get in my way, I do believe. Okay, so what we'll do first is we will start out drawing some squares. Now you can do as many as you like or as few as you like. So since my piece of paper is 9 inches long, I think what I will do is I'm going to do 8 squares. So I'm going to scoot over about 1/2 of an inch, and I'm just going to draw from the end of the ruler down to 8 inches on both sides. Now my ruler is 1 inch wide, so it works out great. Whatever ruler you use, you might have to finagle with it a little bit. So the first thing that I'll do is I'll just start out by making this rectangle. Since I know that my ruler is 1 inch wide, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make each of my squares about, well, I'm just going to make them 1 inch wide. We'll just put them side by side. You can separate them by 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, whatever you feel is going to work better for you. But just for the demonstration purposes today, I'm just going to do that like that. Okay, so we're going to start out by putting our darkest black down here in this first square. So I've mixed my color up relatively thick. And some of these colors, like this one, you might have to go back over it a couple of times just to get it as dark as you can possibly get it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dip my paint into some water, but I'm not going to rinse my brush. I'm going to come right alongside. That's going a little bit too light, and I am not being neat with this. Reason being is because I'm just using it as a value chart. It's not a painting, so I'm not worried about it if I don't get these squares perfectly square. You could also do circles if you want to. Okay, as I'm going across, I'm just making each one a little bit lighter than the one beside it. And then finally, when we get down to the end, we'll just have a white square. And again, what you'll want to do is as you're painting this, you're going to come back across and add a little color to some of them, take away a little color. Well, you won't be able to take away a little color, but you will definitely be adding some color. So I just dipped my brush only in the water, didn't rinse it, just trying to get a lighter value here. Do that again, just dip my brush in the water, use whatever is on my brush, and I just keep doing that. I'm going to dab a little bit of that up just because I want it to be lighter. Okay, I'm going to come back over here while this is all still wet. I'm going to get this darker. Then I'll come next door and just leave what's on my brush. Darken that one up just a little bit more. I'm going to get a little bit more on there because I feel like there's too much of a difference between that first and second color. Darken this one up just a tad. Just go over this one a little bit more because you want to have a graduation in colors. I'm going to rinse my brush out, or not rinse it, rather dip it. Now, that looks better. So see what I have here? I've got a really dark black, and as it comes across, it just keeps getting lighter and lighter and lighter until finally I get down to just white. Take a little more time with yours than I did with mine. I'm really just doing this just to show you how to do it if you've never done one before. Now, what I'm going to do is let this dry, and I have a hole punch somewhere. Here it is. Now, you do not have to have this big mamma jamma of a hole punch. I used to do paper crafting, and I bought this for that purpose. but you can just use just a plain regular old dollar paper punch. So let me let this get dry and then I'll show you what we're going to use the paper punch for. Alrighty then, so here is where the not stapler, good golly, the hole punch comes in handy. You don't have to do this, but it is helpful. So I'm going to punch a hole in the center of each of these squares. And I'll show you, which mine are not going to be neat and tidy because I'm just going down through here and punching holes. I'm not worried about at the moment if they're neat, if they're lined up, because I just kind of want to show you how to do this. Now I'm going to grab that painting that we were talking about back at the beginning. See if I can get this in here. It's kind of a big painting. So one way that you can use this is by taking your value chart with the holes in it and sticking it over the top of the paintings in different areas so that you can determine the values. So remember we were talking about, if I can get it up here so you can see, so when I put my value chart down, I know it's not black. It's not the darkest dark. It's not even quite as dark as this. Let me see if I can get some better light in here for you so that you can see a little bit better. Okay, I think that's better. It's not even quite as dark as that one. Let's get this one. But see, it's right about in line with this value right here. So if I had my printed image here, I could put this value scale on top of my printed image, then on top of this, and determine if I have the values where they need to be. Let me show you something else that you can do that will help you with determining values as well. I just have a couple pieces of old watercolor paper. I use that same hole punch and I punch some holes in here. And so what I would do with this is I would have my image over here on the side and I would put one on my photograph. Then I would take the other one and I would put it on my painting and just compare the two to see if what's on my painting is the same value as what is on my photo. Also, this will help you in determining colors as well. Let's say that you're looking for a particular color. Let's just go right here, for example. Now, if you're looking at this, you might go, well, that's gray. But if you put a piece of white paper on top of it and look through, you'll see that, yeah, it's gray, but it has a blue undertone. So that would help you know to mix a bluish gray rather than a neutral or a warm gray. The same thing would hold true for your yellows. Okay, look at that yellow. What is it, a warm yellow? Is it a cool yellow? That kind of thing. So this and this, both of these little items are handy dandy little things to have just for your values and your colors. So have fun with this. Make one of your own. Let me know how you like it. Let me know if it is a benefit to you, because that is my goal, is to help you to learn how to create things even as simple as this that will help you in your watercolor journey. Have a great day.